Ethical Dilemma Assignment by Dion Simmons. Ethical Dilemma. I am the sole elementary school counselor in a rural county facing a complex ethical dilemma when a parent shares her plans to divorce her husband based on concerns about the daughter's safety. Upon meeting one afternoon in the community, the parent approaches me and mentioned that her husband has been distant and that their 9-year-old daughter is fearful of being alone with him. Without revealing additional details, the parent requests my assistance in ensuring the father does not pick up their daughter from the school or access her student records. As the only counselor, I have grappled with balancing my responsibilities as a professional, ethical obligations, and the potential safety of the child while navigating my personal relationship within the small community. Stone, 2002. Step 1: Identifying the problem. Main problem: I must be mindful of any dual relationships I may have and be vigilant of any situations that could ethically violate my role as the only small town counselor. Secondary problem: I am faced with a situation where a parent has disclosed potential safety concerns without details regarding her husband with her daughter. When I identify the problem, I have to consider ethical dilemmas such as dual relationships. I also have to consider the potential legal dilemmas such as violations of parental rights, and of course, professional dilemmas such as protecting confidentiality and protecting the child at all costs. The problem is related to the relationship between myself and the parents, while doing my best to protect the rights and safety of the child. I must make a decision on the best way to move forward based on the information given by the parent. My priority must consider both parents, but more importantly, the safety of the child. The problem must consider the fact that I have a dual relationship with the mother. The fact that she was able to approach me in the community to even introduce the situation forces me to address the ethical portion of moving forward in a very diplomatic and professional manner. The mother has asked me to withhold the rights of the father at this time I cannot legally do. I must consider if I can legally stop the father from picking up the child and withhold the student's records from him without a court order or by law of the state. In other words, I have to protect his rights as a parent until authorities advise me not to, if that becomes the case. Throughout this entire process, I must maintain professionalism, which means confidentiality with the parents and the child. I am facing the dilemma of how to move forward legally, ethically, and professionally in order to help this child with the little amount of information I was given by the mother. I have yet to speak with the child or engage in any information about or from the father. No investigation has taken place, and all the information I have has only been shared in a random conversation with the mother outside of a school setting. The parent has expressed concerns that their oldest daughter is afraid to be alone with her husband, but has not shared any additional information. ACA standards I would consider are A.6.B, extending counseling boundaries. Counselors consider the risk and benefits of extending current counseling relationships beyond conventional parameters. In extending these boundaries, counselors take appropriate professional precautions such as informed consent, consultation, supervision, and the documentation to ensure judgment is not impaired and no harm occurs. B.2.A. Serious and foreseeable harm and legal requirements. The general requirements that counselors keep information confidential does not apply when disclosure is required to protect clients or identified other forms of serious foreseeable harm, or when legal requirements demand that confidential information must be revealed. Counselors should counselors consult with other professionals when in doubt as to the validity of any exceptions. Additional considerations may apply when addressing end of life issues. B.3.C. Confidential settings. Counselors discuss confidential information only in settings in which they are reasonably ensured client privacy. I would review the ASCA standards. The one I would consider are A.2.G. Recognize their primary ethical obligations for confidentiality is to the students, but balance the obligation with the understanding of parent, guardian, legal, and inherent rights to be the guiding voice in their children's lives. School counselors understand the need to balance students' ethical rights to make choices, their capacity to give consent or assent, and parental or familial legal rights and responsibilities to make decisions on their child's behalf. A.4.C. Assess potential risk and benefits to prior to extending relationships beyond the school's building and school hours. B.1.K. Follow the directions and stipulations of the legal documentation in divorce, separation, or custody case. Maintain and focus on the student. Adhere to clear boundaries and a position of neutrality when working with parents and guardians. The Maryland State Code of Federal Laws that I would consider are 10.58.03.04 B.3. A counselor may not enter into relationships that could compromise the counselor's objectivity or create conflict of interest. 10.58.03.01 Dual relationships. A counselor shall A. Avoid dual relationships with clients, and B. Take appropriate measures, including but not limited to informed consent, consultation, supervision, and documentation to ensure that judgment is not impaired and no exploitation occurs if a dual relationship cannot be avoided. Health insurance portability and accountability HIPAA protects clients' confidentiality. Beneficees reflect to the counselor's responsibilities to contribute to the welfare of the client. Simply stated, it means to do good, to be proactive, and also prevent harm when possible. Foster, Miller, and Rubenstein, 1992. Justice and Kitchener's 1984 points out is treating equals equally and unequally, but in proportion to their relevant differences. Other organizations and counselors, Maryland School of Counseling Association, the Center for Trauma and Stress and Anxiety. My potential course of actions are to identify, consult with My potential course of actions are to definitely consult with other professionals, speak directly with the child in order to gather more information, and speak with both parents separately. I would advise the authorities, if necessary, a review of the ACA and ASCA as well as state codes of ethics is important in any decision making process. The potential consequences of the course of action I take include legal ramifications if I do not follow the state and federal laws. This means that I cannot withhold the student's records from the father. I must also consider the potential for the parent to become angry if I do not take their side in the situation. Furthermore, I have to consider the potential for the child to be put into an uncomfortable situation, an uncomfortable position if I speak to them separately. I must consult with other professionals. I would be wise to consult with more than one counselor as this situation is multifaceted. I need experienced opinions, which does not happen when you only consult with one person. I also must accept my personal I also must accept that my personal relationship may be altered after dealing with this situation. My first and foremost goal is to problem solve without including my personal feelings. My goal is to protect the child at all costs. The situation may require that the child be removed from the care of the parents until investigation is complete. The course of action I chose is to consult with other professionals and determine the legal requirements of the state. I will then speak with the child one on one with the understanding that I will have to get the child to trust me and confide in me and not just rely on the information shared by the mother. Evaluate the course of action in regards to the test of justice. Would I treat others in the same manner? Regarding the test of publicity, would I want the public to know which steps and course of action I took? And finally, regarding the test of the universality, would my course of actions be something I use as advice for other counselors? In order to implement my chosen course of action, I will consult with other professionals to determine the legal requirements of the state and if a court order is necessary to protect the child. I will also speak I will also speak to the child's parents separately if necessary to get more information about the situation, focus on providing focus on providing the child with support and resources. I will notify any authorities if I find evidence that the child is unsafe. The most important factor in all of this will be involving all of my resources so that my implementation and course of action is clear and ethical. A key advantage of peer consulting group is their potential to promote clinicians' effectiveness and ultimately protect the welfare of the patients, which is an ethical obligation. APA 2002.